What's up, everybody? It's Josh here, back with another Boston Celtics related video. Been a while since I made one of these. I've been just sitting back and observing for the past little bit, watching my team, following them, keeping track, and I'm usually hesitant to say something unless it's really big. Like, I'm usually hesitant to make a video unless it's like a huge trade or something I feel like talking about, but the Celtics are now 2 games below 500 after getting blown out by the Hawks last night, and there's been a lot of talk around Ainge and Stevens and the culture of the team, and it's gotten to the point where it's like, all right, I got to say something about this. It's getting pretty bad. So, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and I'm just going to kind of lay everything out that I'm thinking at this moment about the team, about the state of the team. First thing I want to start with is, like, the overall roster. I don't know what people were expecting this year. Like, so many people are surprised. Like, don't get me wrong, I think the Celtics should be better than around a 500 team, but I'm not quite sure why people are so surprised that this team is struggling. They're just not that talented. Like, when they lost Hayward to Charlotte, like, that was really, that was like the last straw of a player loss that this team really needed to keep in order to stay afloat, and they don't have enough talent behind him to mask that loss. They just don't, and it's really sad. And this is where a lot of people get frustrated with Ainge and, his kind of, he's the king of almost trades, and there were so many missed moves over the years that he could have made, and it seems like the ones that he does make don't seem to pan out, despite the fact that he hoarded all these assets for years, and it seemed like the Celtics had the best future in the NBA just a few years ago, and they did. I mean, they had all these Nets draft picks. They had Tatum, Brown, all the cap space in the world, and it just turned into Tatum and Brown. Like, that's it. Well, and then there's Kemba Walker, but we'll get into him in a little bit later. But, one of the frustrating things is, Ainge had a chance to replace Hayward with some solid pieces, and Miles Turner and Doug McDermott was one of the rumored offers from Indy back when the Celtics were discussing a sign and trade for Hayward and Indy. And okay, if anyone can actually argue this and tell me in the comments and link a source and tell me if I'm wrong in this, please do. But I've seen, I kind of get this feeling that there's a misconception about how the Celtics-Pacers negotiations went down. So people, positive Celtics fans are always like, oh, well, Hayward went to Charlotte. Hayward actually had to actually agree to go to Indiana for that to work. Well, here's how I viewed it. So both Woj and Shams, who never put out any false information, both said, and I remember I was specifically watching Shams Charania video that he posted, that Hayward and his agent wanted Indiana. They wanted to go to Indy, which is why the Celtics and Indiana even talked in the first place about a deal. Hayward wanted to go to Indy, correct? Correct, okay. And so Ainge was getting greedy. There was the report that he was offered Miles Turner and Doug McDermott for Hayward, right? And then it was reported that Ainge wanted all these other guys like Oladipo and TJ Warren, and it was like, whoa, what's going on? Like, Ainge, just take the deal that's in front of you. And that was my immediate thought. Like, Ainge, just get the deal done. At least get something for him. Don't blow it. And then the next day, boom, Charlotte signs Hayward. And people are like, oh, well, that's because Hayward wanted to go to Charlotte. No, because there was no reported interest of Charlotte before that. Yeah, there was back then in the day when Hayward was a restricted free agent and he signed an offer sheet, but, it was a completely different team back then and different timeline for them. And I know Hayward, he was interested in them, but not this cycle, because he didn't even take a meeting with him back when he was an unrestricted free agent. Like, obviously things changed. But to me, Charlotte just offered an amount of money that Hayward couldn't refuse, but Charlotte only offered after the Ainge negotiations with Indy dragged out too long. I think Charlotte was looking at that and they were like, well, why? Well, they're screwing around over there. Let's just throw a deal at him and see what happens. And they got Hayward, but I don't know why Celtics fans think it's not Ainge's fault. Like, to me, I thought he dragged that out to the point where it worked against him. He overplayed his hand. So all that being said, a lot of Celtics fans will, they've kind of convinced themselves that Miles Turner sucks and that would have been a bad move, or that wouldn't have been that good of a move anyways. And it's like, well, he's a good rim protector. He's a good stretch big. He'd be by far like the best big on the Celtics roster. So I'm not quite sure why Celtics fans wouldn't want him. Like, Celtics fans have kind of convinced themselves that Miles Turner sucks, which just is odd to me. Like, he's a good player. We could definitely use him on this team right now. I'm not sure why people think that. But anyways, they ended up using the rest of the money they had on Tristan Thompson and Jeff Teague, two signings that I thought were solid, but whatever. And they've turned out to actually not be all that great. Thompson's been doing okay. Teague, not so much. Celtics fans want him cut. I kind of agree. But then the Celtics actually ended up working out a sign-and trade with Charlotte where they ended up getting this TPE back, which basically it's just a wad of money that they can use in a trade to take back any player that makes the amount of money that the TPE calls for, right? So it's around like 20-something million, and, you know, they could get a solid player. Celtics fans kind of have a misconception, though. They think they can get some budding star with the TPE. That's not how this is going to work. It'll get them a solid player. It'll get them a solid player, but no one that's, you know, like, it'll get them a marginal player, but it's not going to get them anything special. And to me, that's where this is where I really get pissed off, and why I thought Ainge should have just took the Pacers deal, because this TPE, I mean, the Celtics are so bad right now that whoever they get with the TPE doesn't really matter. I mean, you're still not a championship contender. It's still not going to put you over the top. Even if it was like best case scenario with the TPE, like Nick Vucevic or whatever, like, even then, like, are you beating the Nets? Are you getting to the finals? Probably not. I just don't see it. This team isn't good enough. They don't have a good enough depth. Now let's talk about some of other Danny Ainge's mismanagement with the assets. So back when Kyrie left, right? The Celtics went out and got Kemba Walker in free agency. I loved the signing at the time, and it was working. Like, it was a good signing for that first season. However, we all know how Kemba's health is doing now. There's questions and problems with his knee, and he just has not been the same. He's been having horrible shooting night on top of horrible shooting night. And this really sucks because the Celtics can't, I mean, like, he's untradeable at this point. Like, no one's going to want him now. And then on top of that, then it's a bad look on you because you just signed him, like, what, a year ago? And then here's the thing with Kemba. Even if he is to get healthy again, and you got Kemba, Tatum, and Jalen, this team still is not good enough to win a championship. They're just not. And, you know, people keep banking on, you know, well, just wait till Tatum and Brown get better. You know, they're still young. Okay, Tatum and Brown are both going to get a little bit better as the years go on, but still, is it enough? I mean, this is a star-driven league, and I just don't see it. And even if Kemba, or by the time Jalen and Tatum are theoretically good enough to win a championship, right? Well, then is Kemba going to be, like, completely washed by then? Like, he doesn't fit the timeline. Like, he's not going to be good enough then. So I don't understand what you do at this point. Then there's Ainge's drafting. I defended Ainge's drafting for a while, but it's starting to look really bleak. Like, who is he? Like, the Raptors were able to have, excuse me, Anunoby waiting in the wings, and, you know, there's teams like that. There's teams that make picks like that, and it's just like, why can't the Celtics ever get any of these guys that are like huge sleepers in the draft? Like, I could name plenty more examples, but you guys know what I'm talking about, and it's really frustrating because, you know, he drafts all these like okay, Romeo Langford, like, he drafted him at 14 at the back of the lottery, and it looked like a good pick. I forget Romeo Langford's even on the team at sometimes, guys. Like, he hasn't been healthy enough to play. He doesn't even get minutes even when he is there. And that's another problem, is all these guys that Ainge is drafting, like, can't even seem to get on the floor, and I'm not sure if that's more of a Stevens thing or what. And then you take Aaron Nesmith this year with your other, like, back of the lottery pick, or just early 20s, whatever it was, right? And even that, like, Aaron Nesmith can't even get on the floor. Like, what's the point? Like, we needed an instant impact guy, and he's not that. Peyton Pritchard's a solid player. That was a good pick, but he's more of a high floor, lower ceiling guy. But, hey, he's NBA ready, whatever. But, you know, besides that, like, where are the hits in the drafts? You know, and, I mean, you could point to Tatum and Brown, but, like, those were, like, top 3 picks. Like, I would hope he gets someone good with those. The filling out with the rest of the roster has been horrible. And then there's the problem with the Celtics stars over the last few years leaving. So, have you ever heard the saying that if you meet an asshole every day, then maybe you're the asshole? Well, keep that analogy in mind, or not an analogy, but that little saying in mind, right? So the Celtics lost Kyrie a few years ago. You can explain why Kyrie Irving left, right? Like, there was reasons to that. Cool, whatever. But then there was Al Horford the next year, right? He left. Well, you can kind of explain why Horford left. He got offered a bunch of money, and you could understand why he left the Celtics, right? Cool, whatever. They're still fine. Gordon Hayward leaves. Okay, well, you can explain why Hayward left and everything, but hold on, wait. What about all of them together, though? Like, you can't explain all of them. Like, there's one common denominator in all of these scenarios, and it's the Celtics. What is going on to where all these guys feel like they got to leave? Money, I don't care about the money. Like, what's going on? I mean, there's no reason these guys should be opting out of, these huge contracts for a little bit of an increase in pay when the Celtics could have been contenders with them, But now Tatum and Brown's extensions are kicking in, and the Celtics are kind of capped out because they're paying Walker as well. And it's like, well, where's the improvement going to come from? Because unless this team just goes full tank mode, and because they're not. Look, they have no money to afford anyone else. However, they're not bad enough to get a good pick in the draft to where they can substantially get better. And it's just like, well, where do we go from here? Because I just I don't know. And then with Brad Stevens, so a lot of people have been calling for him to be fired, right? I was never really with that, but and I think Brad is a good coach, but sometimes coaches' shtick just kind of wears out with players, and I feel like we kind of have gotten to that point. Like, I think the players are starting to tune out Brad, and that's when you're almost forced to make a change. And then on top of that, there's no denying some of these rotations from Stevens and the two big lineup and Teague getting all these minutes. Dude, what the hell? I can't even defend that. And it's over and over again. They've consistently been one of the worst third and fourth quarter teams in the league for years. I mean, they're always blowing these leads, and it's like, what has to change? Because it's the same thing every time. So that's basically my rant. There was no real point of the video. I just really wanted to get my thoughts out and rant for a little bit, so I just left it all out there on the floor, kind of unlike the team. So you guys let me know what you agree with, what you disagree with, how you feel. I just kind of feel like this team's stuck in no man's land and seems like a long way out. You can blame whoever you want, but something's got to change. So that's all for today. Peace.